What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark, back from MovieGuide.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm doing a review of Silo, Season 2, Episode 7. We are getting closer and closer to the finale. Will Juliet save her Silo? We don't know. But picking up from where last week wanted us to really know we were leaving off, Juliet has to, of course, in order to get her suit back from Solo, she has to figure out a way how to turn the pump back on, which means she has to swim down 8 stories, essentially, into a room. And she has to figure out how to do that and MacGyver her way down there. What's really interesting, what I really loved about this is Solo, who just spouts random knowledge, like about the bends and how he read books. He also talks about swimming. And he talks about swimming as if nobody had ever thought about swimming as a concept before. And it's really kind of amazing when you think about it, because these are grown adults. And it's one of those things we take for granted. Like, oh yeah, we've swum before. Because I guess they don't have anywhere for you to swim. They don't have any pools or anything in the silo. There's nothing for them to ever swim in, so nobody ever needs to know how to swim. So he's trying to describe to her conceptually how people swam. And it's really interesting, and it made me think, holy shit, no one knows how to swim because they don't have a reason to. Everybody has grown up without the concept of getting into water, you know? That's kind of amazing when you think about it. Um, and sort of a really interesting sort of science fiction weird future thing is what happens when you have a world without anything to swim in, then no one knows how to swim, which means I guess nobody has a bathtub because kids would never be submerged in water. Obviously these people take showers. I don't think these people have ever just never showered before. That would be really weird. But maybe they haven't. Everybody smells really bad. um but anyway, but I feel like we've seen bathrooms and I feel like we've seen showers. So, but it's just the idea that anybody's been submerged in water before. It's not a thing. So, yeah, she has to figure out how to do that if she wants to get her thing back. So she goes down, she does figure it out. And to end her segment, because I want to jump to the other half, which is the silo, she comes back up and she's a pretty decent way from the top. And, I guess Solo is not there to help her, and she goes back up and she's looking for him, and he's missing, and she can't find him, but she does find an axe and some fresh blood, and does not know what that means, and Solo's missing. So it's definitely an interesting little that's more of an interesting tag because Solo's the kind of character that, unlike the last episode where they gave us proof of life on Juliet, Solo's not necessarily a character that you're the question is what could have happened to him. Did somebody come in here and find Solo? Was there somebody else that's been in here with them the whole time? That kind of thing. So we'll see in the next episode. We also got a lot of Silo attention with Bernard, who now has a shadow, and he shows the shadow his new living quarters, which are kind of fancy, and he's got all of these relics and stuff, and he's just supposed to learn. But primarily, Bernard's but if you could work on this code right now, because I think this code might be important to something that we need right now. But as we go forward, you'll be reading all this stuff and learning from all these relics. So, and he has a tablet that's there to teach him, and there's a voice recognition device that now recognizes him as the Shadow. So, Lucas Kyle is now the Shadow, officially. And what will he do with that knowledge? And he's getting into still code breaking and figuring that out. And meanwhile, we also see the down low, the lowdowns are there's been sort of a hit that's supposedly been put out on Knox and Shirley, and they find out there's this method where people like leave a message or whatever, and it goes up, and they're trying to figure out like who did it, like who's the rat, and they're going through, and they come into contact with the sheriffs who are still down there, and they're, Paul's like, I'm not on your side, just I'm the sheriff, I'm on my own side, and there's no sides. And they're like, well, why don't you investigate who poisoned our food then, since you're here for things. But eventually they're like, well, we have to take you into custody because there's a threat that's been made against your life. So that Walker's trying to go around and figure out what happened to her ex-partner. Bernard has her. We see her. She's in like basically like solitary confinement. And he goes in and tries to question her. And she just she has just like a really basic request where she's like, I just want to know if my friends, like, are they alive? Did you kill them? Like, what's going on? And he won't give her that. And he just believes that anything that she tells him will be compromised because he's interested in this thing that they did where they used gunpowder and sent up these messages like to the top that sort of is making them think about, like IT is lying to them. So, and they could smell the gunpowder. They're like, how much gunpowder do they have down there? There's things that Bernard doesn't know. And, which puts him sort of in conflict with Common and Common's wife. I forget her character's name all the time. And, I'm just gonna keep using Common because the judge, between Bernard and the judge, the other one's been dead for a while. I can call him the judge too. Between Bernard and the judge, and Judge Common is that should be a show, like Judge Judy. Judge Common is he's a little miffed. He spent years shadowing, and so he wants this interaction. He has an opportunity to force Bernard's hand. And Bernard comes in and he yells at him, and he's like, you do what I tell you to do. Blah, I put you in here because I never wanted to see you again. That kind of thing. Like he reminds him who has the real power. And Common comes back at him with, with all the things that he's done along the way. And he's like, I did this still for you. I gave all these years of my life to you. And then this, if I hadn't stepped in, this wouldn't have happened if I didn't. There are a whole bunch of things that you don't know. You're finding out that you don't know because the guy who's now in my job has no idea what's going on. So you're finding out that there are all these things that you don't have answers to, and it's because you're surrounded now by incompetence. And then he gets pissed off when he finds out that Lucas got the shadow job. So lots of conflict between them, but I think Bernard also sees that Common might have a little bit more understanding of what's going on. He does try to throw that little right hook at Common with the thing about his wife having helped the two, Knox and Shirley, escape, which Common didn't know about. But he has actually a fairly decent talk with his wife about it, where they're like, we make moves together or not at all. And then she's like, okay. So like they're on the same time. They're on their own team, whether that's Team Bernard or Team Down Low. But her point was, we don't know who's going to end up winning this. So I'm just trying, it's better to play both sides. And I mean, she's right, because you don't necessarily know that Bernard is going to necessarily triumph in this. It's funny to think at the end of the season, because they were picked up and said that they would end after the 4th season, that we'll be halfway through the series. So with that kind of knowledge, you're like, well, it's not like they need to stretch this out forever. So if they're going to take Bernard out, they could take Bernard out. It's not necessarily the weirdest thing in the world. I think the biggest question by the end of the season is Juliet ever going to get out of the silo she's in this season to get back to her old silo? And then if she does get back to her old silo, then the question becomes what happens next? And also what happens to Solo? Does he go back to is he alive? Does he go back to his thing? Was there somebody else that was in there with him? Is there a third character we're about to meet, like a new character? Somebody who maybe was in there who attacked Solo, and then Juliet finds his body or something, or does Solo have somebody else in there with him who attacked him and then they left? I don't, I mean, there's so many options there to have like another character that we didn't even know was present. So, yeah, it's definitely, lots of doors are being opened. We touched on pretty much most of the characters. They do find the traitor in the end, and then they do this thing where they're like, we're not going to send you to the mines because we're not like the people up there. We're going to, we're just going to give you some shit jobs for a little while, and give you some shit about it, and because that's what we do, and then we'll move on. Just so I was like, well, I mean, the thing is, I don't know how important the mines are, but if nobody is ever sent to the mines, does it, like, what is the thought? And I don't want to say like I'm pro punishment here, but like, obviously the mines is like the job that nobody wants, so they use it as a punishment job. But they also say like the people at top, like they send people to the mines to die. But do they need the mines at all? Like, is it like, what do they gain from the mines, so to speak? Like, is it like, because if nobody goes to the mines anymore, how does that affect their life? Like, let's say the down lows win, right? And so they don't have mines anymore. Does that negatively impact them? What are they getting out of the mines? Is it really important? Is it a shitty job that somebody has to do in order for everybody else to stay alive? Or is it really just like a menial task purely for punishment only? So that's kind of the question that I would love to have answered, is how important is mining to this community? Like, because they just kind of brush it off like it's nothing. Like, well, we don't need mines. Okay, I guess you don't need mines. Cool. Also, I really like the little bit that they, when they shut off the power, it's like they knew IT was going to have, like, IT had its own power source. So that what they were trying to do was show that IT had its own power source. And Bernard freaks out and like runs in and turns off the light really quickly, and then claims that, that mechanical made that. They did that on purpose. And it's like, nah, dude, you have your own. It's okay. Like, I mean, think about how many times there's always been like a backup generator, but it isn't like something that you need to have running. Like when power fails, there's still like a couple things that run in places because there's like a backup generator for something. It's like, just to explain that that's where the computer, like, who cares? Like, I mean, I feel like that's such an easy explanation. Like, do you know what job we do? So yeah, we have a backup generator that runs for a few hours or something. I don't know. Like, why is he so worried? I feel like that's such an easy explanation. Like, own it and be like, yeah, we have a backup power source. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, we have the cameras, we have the radios. So if the power goes out, we have to be able to communicate. I'm sorry. Like, it just feels like such an easy thing for him to be able to brush off, but instead he would rather just pretend like it never, like nope, we do not have a backup generator at all. It does not exist. Anyway, I like the episode. I thought it was good, and obviously I'm a fan of Silo, so this one didn't have some weird tag at the end that didn't serve a purpose. I actually thought this one served a purpose because we had already established that Solo was there and should have been there for her when she came back up, but he wasn't. So to that time, I was actually, and Solo is also not the lead of the show, so he could die at any moment, just as any other character in the original Silo could die. But the other one was silly because I was never worried about Juliet. So that's it. I'm going to give Silo an A because that's what I do every week. It's just a fan thing. I just like Silo. Except last week I gave it an A- for that weird final 3 minutes of the episode. But yeah, this week we're back up to an A because everything made sense. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.